Hey guys, it's Kirsten and I'm back for another video. I know it's been a long time and I haven't really had a streak of videos come out in a while, but I'm hoping to get back into it. At least give you guys some knowledgeable and informative videos because that's what I want to do. Today I thought I would talk about my application process into a naturopathic doctor program. So I recently applied to this. I started back in, I want to say February. Really, the process wasn't too complicated, but it did involve more tedious work. To start, I started off by doing my research. Did I really want to go into this program? What was it really about? And I talked to somebody who just completed the program. The program I applied to and will be attending in September is the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine. That's in Toronto, Ontario. If anybody didn't know, there's only 2 naturopathic doctor programs in Canada, one in Toronto and the other one is in BC. So obviously this was the one I was going to choose. It's closer to home and just easier to access. So after doing my research, I found a link from the webpage that took me to the application webpage. Now they do the applications through a different company. I'm not really sure what that's about, but the company works with a few schools from what I got to do applications for. So it took me to that website. I had to pay a fee of about $115 American. So kind of a little bit expensive. That comes to about $130 Canadian. A little bit expensive to apply to just one school, but I knew that it was worth it. It was what I wanted to do, and that's why I continued forth with it. So it had me fill out a lot of basic information, things like my name, my last name, my phone number, my email, gender, all of that kind of stuff. And then we moved on to the more complex questions, things like I had to write an essay about why I wanted to go into the program. It wasn't anything long. It was like 700 words, which if you know what that is, it's not long at all. So that was pretty simple, especially when I'm passionate about wanting to go into the program anyways. I had to submit a picture of my CPR certification. The main thing that I had to do as well was get 3 different references. So this means that I had to get one person that was a previous employer. I chose my boss who I have during my summer job, so he's still my boss now. Then an academic advisor, so I chose my professor from one of my classes that I thought would be a good fit. And then the third person I had to be somebody who is an actual registered medical professional. So I chose my chiropractor because I have had him since I was like 4 years old and we're pretty close. He's a very nice guy and he knows more about me than any other medical practitioner I know would. So I felt really comfortable having him reference me. He was super excited and happy to do it. So I would recommend choosing people that you know have a good understanding of who you are as a person, as well as why you want to be in the program, and that they know that you're passionate about it and you're a good worker, because they want to see people with actual passion towards this program, work ethic, all that kind of stuff. So that's who I chose. So you kind of have to wait for them to get mailed out or emailed out the information, and then they have to write a reference for you. After that, then they kind of don't really show you anything. You don't really know what the reference says. You don't know what the person that is your reference is getting, so that's kind of nerve-wracking. But in the end, it's really worth it when you get those good references and you get the payoff. So after doing all that information, I had to put in my marks. So I had to put in all of my grades from post-secondary school, so all of my university degree information from first year, second year, third year, and fourth year. So I had to write down the classes, what they were, as well as the grades I ended with them. Then all of that gets sent in and they calculate your GPA. That's how they know if you've got the marks to get into the program, as well as if you have the prerequisites. Now, one of the biggest things I had to do to get into this program was take 2 chemistry courses in the span of 2.5 months. So that was pretty crazy because I was also taking 5 other courses in my university degree because I was finishing my kinesiology degree. So it was a pretty crazy last semester from February up until April, but it was definitely worth it. I had to drive to the school to do my testing for chemistry, but it was kind of cool because I got to see the school. So definitely make sure you have the prereqs early on, because I know there were a few girls who were stuck taking things like physiology, biology, psychology, like all of this stuff, as well as the chemistry, and I cannot imagine having to take that many. Like the 2 chemistries for me was already overwhelming enough, but I pushed through and I did it. Another big thing I want to mention is that you do need to have a 4-year undergrad degree under your belt. I think they also take 3-year undergrad degrees, but you need some sort of degree under your belt already in order to get into the program, just because they want you to have a bunch of these prerequisites, to have medical knowledge already, it makes sense. You're going into a doctor program. I think that's like every doctorate, you have to have those 4 years anyways. So I will be going to school for 8 years total, which is pretty crazy, but I'm really excited. The next big step was I got an email back saying that all of my stuff kind of checked in and they wanted to do an interview with me, which is super exciting. So within like 1 day span, I went from not knowing anything to hearing that I was going to be doing an interview like maybe 15 hours later the next day. And so I did the interview. That just was basically composed of a Skype call. I sat down and I talked to a naturopathic doctor who graduated from the program, as well as a student that was in her 4th year. So it was a little bit less intimidating. I didn't feel like I was speaking to somebody super high up at the school that made me feel really nervous, which made me feel better. So I think it's a good system they've got going. Also, doing the Skype interview really made me feel a lot more comfortable. I just felt more comfortable in my home doing it instead of going into the school, but that is also an option to do. It wasn't viable for me to drive 3 hours to get there. So during the interview, they asked me a bunch of questions. They asked me, I think, 4 to 5 questions, but they weren't regular questions. They wanted to just know who you were as a person and understand how you react in certain situations, and if you have the coping mechanisms to get through a program like this. So one of the questions was something like, if you got stuck in an elevator on your way to a class, you were late, and the elevator got stuck and you were told it was going to be 2 hours, and you were stuck with somebody else in the elevator, but you noticed they were very nervous, what would you do? And so they just wanted to see things like how you would respond in a situation like that. Would you panic? Would you help the other person? Would you worry about yourself? All that kind of stuff. So just knowing that you're an empathetic person, they really want to make sure that you're just a good, genuine person who's interested in the program. So I really appreciate the school for doing something like that. It made the interview a lot less tedious and like the regular questions that you get asked at interviews that just kind of make you nervous. So it was pretty cool to do that, and I felt like I answered very well. It was within maybe 3 hours after my interview that I heard that I was good to go for the program. I just needed a few more things, extra things that I was required after getting into the school. I needed to make sure I had my CPR certification, which I already did. I needed to get my TB test. I needed a 2-step TB test. That's a tuberculosis test. And basically they just prick you with a needle in one arm, have you come back and check it 2 days later, make sure that you haven't reacted. That means you don't have tuberculosis. They do that again a month later in your other arm, same thing. So I just finished my 2nd round of those yesterday. So that was the last thing I needed to complete, and I'm going to get it checked tomorrow, and then I'm good officially to go. I've got everything I needed. They also want to make sure you have your hepatitis A and B shots. As you're going to be dealing with patients, they want to make sure that you don't have anything that will get either contracted to you or contracted to patients that you're dealing with. And then they needed you to fill out just a bunch of paperwork, the typical stuff like signing that you agree to pay the money. I had to put down a $2,000 down payment. Tuition for medical school is not cheap, guys, so this is something you have to think about. Don't let that stop you. There's lots of scholarships and there's lots of opportunities to get the help you need financially, but just make sure you understand that it is a big commitment financially. So please do your research. Make sure you want to be in this program. Those are the main things that it took to apply to the school. Hopefully this interested some of you guys. I know that it was very confusing for me to do on my own, so I thought I would let you guys know how the process went, and hopefully it inspires some of you to do the same one day. And yeah, so hopefully this video was good for you, and I love you guys so much, and have a great day.